Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we're going to be talking about Jordan Underwood, who we've talked about before on the channel quite a few times. Now, this video I think is really interesting, and the reason that I wanted to share this and I wanted to talk about this is because I feel like it's very important. I talk about this very, very frequently. I obviously have a lot of videos where I'm talking about things that I disagree with the Health at Every Size movement or body positivity, fat positivity. But there are certain things that I agree pretty significantly on them with. And one of those, and I would say this is the main thing, and I think that this is very important, is medical mistreatment, medical malpractice maybe on like the extreme side, but definitely mistreatment. So I think most of us know what it's like to be afraid to go to the doctor's office or be stressed out about the fact that you're going to be going to the doctor's office because you've had bad experiences. I've mentioned my bad experiences before, going to the doctor's office, them wanting to weigh me, my doctor making me feel shamed. Again, I was literally a child at this point. I was still in high school, shaming me for it, them literally not having the right size arm cuff to take my blood pressure, so they used what they said was a leg cuff one, and they made it very clear, and my doctor made it very clear. He was very annoyed with this. It was literally one of the worst experiences of my life. It was so embarrassing, and that, in my opinion, does not help anyone. Why am I bringing all this up? Because today we are going to be talking about this TikTok from Jordan. Now, as I've said many times, there's a lot of stuff that I disagree with Jordan on. But this is one thing that I would say, for the most part, I actually agree with. Maybe not exactly completely, but for the most part. So they're responding to a comment that was left on a previous TikTok. I could not find that previous one, sadly. But the comment goes on to say, there's no such thing as fat, non-competent doctors. Your condition isn't rare or new. Also, the amount of spelling errors in this is incredible. Or new. They are all competent. There's just some that hurt your feelings. That's not incompetence. So that's what Jordan is responding to. So let's just let the TikTok play and I'll share my thoughts.
This commenter wants to know what I mean when I say fat competent, because based on their comment, it's very clear that they don't understand. Oftentimes when I say fat competent, what people think I mean is that the doctors are not nice to me, which is just very plainly like not what that means.
So I think that that's a good point, and I wouldn't say that I felt that way, but I think that there are a lot of people that I would say the reason why I think a lot of people feel that way is because a lot of times the stories that people share literally are similar to what I just shared, right? Being treated terribly and very not nice. And like you might say, oh, you need to get over it, but that's stuff that's going to affect someone, and they're not going to want to go back to someone that just made them feel bad. Like, there are ways to explain to someone how serious their condition might be, their size might be, without making them feel like absolute garbage. And I feel like that is so unbelievably important, because people literally end up in worse positions than they need to be because of the shame and guilt they feel because of some of these experiences with doctors, so they just don't go back anymore. And then by the time they figure something out, it is so far past where it could have been if they would have just felt more comfortable going to the doctor. Like, this is something that's very, very important, in my opinion.
And if you actually listen to my words, you would hear that I separate fat competent and fat friendly, which very clearly makes a distinction between competency with our bodies and friendly, meaning nice to us. And while yes, a lot of the issues many fat people have with doctors is that we go to the doctor and they are actively hostile. They are not kind or friendly or nice or whatever it is. That's actually the least of my concerns.
I think that's a good thing, but it's also, I do think that it's very important. I just do.
So kind practitioners are part of what keeps people coming back to the doctor. So if I were a doctor, I would want to be kind to my patients. But as I said, that's not really my primary concern, because inadequate care, or at worst medical neglect with a smile on your face, is still inadequate care and medical neglect. In that video, I was talking about vaccines. And when I said fat competent, what I mean is knowing that for most larger bodied people, you need to use a longer needle to give the injection. There are nurses and nurse practitioners and doctors who do not know this, meaning that I could go and get a vaccine and end up not being immunized because they didn't use the right size needle.
So, and that is important. And I know, I already can tell that like there would be people that have these thoughts. There might not be any comments because y'all are pretty nice, but there are thoughts of like, well, you should just lose weight and then you'd be good. Like, technically that is correct, right? If you were less fat, if you had less fat on your body, then a regular needle would work. But that doesn't mean that it's okay. That doesn't mean that just because, yes, that technically would work, doesn't mean that it is that difficult to just get longer needles, right? Like, these are things that are important. And I really do think that being against general care for people is insane, in my opinion.
If you are a plus size person in need of a pap smear or gynecological exam, oftentimes, due to the way our bodies are shaped, the practitioner needs to use a longer speculum. I have gone to the gynecologist and not been able to get a pap smear because the doctor did not know to use a longer speculum. I have gone to the doctor, had them try and take my blood pressure, and them not know where in their office the larger blood pressure cuff was, and they quite literally just asked me what my blood pressure normally was.
I'm sorry. The first time I heard that, I'm just like imagining like a nurse or something, or like maybe the doctor being like, okay, well, we couldn't find what, like, what's it normally? You know, you look fine. So it's just, what's it normally? All right, I'll just write that down. Like, that's crazy. If that actually happened, that's crazy.
These list of examples like go on and on and on. I have had specialists whose care I desperately needed for even just diagnosis not book initial appointments with me because they had BMI limits on who they would even see for an initial appointment in their office.
Now, I do want to say I don't know exactly what that was about, what those certain things were about. But I do think that it is important to state that being significantly overweight does have risk factors, and there are certain things that you are going to miss out on. And that's just the truth. So that's another reason why being that size is a problem. And I do think that, you know, obviously where me and Jordan disagree on a lot of this stuff is that I think a lot of people think that it's impossible to lose weight. And so that's where a lot of these people like kind of come off and they share this information and they're like, well, it's impossible to lose weight. So this is discrimination, the same as, you know, discriminating on someone based on their skin color or their, you know, their sexual preferences or whatever. Right. And that's where I just disagree wholeheartedly. Right. But when it comes to simple things that could be changed or making people feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, for me, the reason I want, you know, bigger people or whatever to be comfortable in the going to the doctors or just getting this care is because I think that it is important for people to hear the information, know what their risk factors are, and be shown helpful ways to lower those risk factors, lose the weight, right? And feel comfortable going to these places so you're not completely like scared to go. Because when people are scared to go to the doctors, that's when things get way, 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 way worse, right? And then you end up going because there's an emergency, and one that's way more expensive and it's way harder to deal with. So these are very serious things, right? But there are certain things that I just disagree with Jordan on, obviously.
Not for treating, not for, oh, we have a BMI requirement for a surgery or a procedure or a medication. Quite literally would not even take an initial appointment with me in her office. Like, so genuinely, fuck my feelings. I am simply asking for doctors who know how to do their jobs.
I would say, like, with that last example, I wonder if the person just knew that there's no way they could help someone based on maybe what the appointment is for. I don't know. Obviously, they weren't very, they didn't share exactly what it was, so really have no idea. But the reason that I wanted to share this is, like, I think it's important that, you know, obviously I talk a lot about how I disagree with some of the fat acceptance stuff and health at every size and all that stuff. But there is this one, not just one thing, but this is the thing that I agree with the most. And I think it's important. I think that talking about this is important, and I think that getting more people comfortable with going to the doctors is a good thing, you know, and getting that help that you deserve, that you need, because, you know, it is so much easier to treat and deal with things, you know, diseases or whatever, when you catch it sooner, right? Like, it is a lot easier to deal with, you know, being overweight if you're 50 pounds overweight versus if you're 350 pounds overweight, right? Like, the more extreme it gets, the harder it is to deal with. And so I think that this is really, really important, and I just wanted to share this video because, you know, obviously I talk a lot about the things that I disagree with, but I do want to share the things that I agree with. Maybe don't agree with everything, but this is something that I do agree with. But I just wanted to share that. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. Share your stories if you're someone that's bigger that has gone to the doctors, good or bad. I would love to know. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.